Hi, everyone. Harry here to talk about the first lawsuit against Trump for his plans to demolish the East Wing in order to build his Xanadu-esque ballroom, which can only imagine the gaudiness that awaits us. And it certainly does seem like an outrage and an absolute Trumpian, self-centered, megalomaniacal even move. But what is to be done? So let's start with this. It's not even a lawsuit. So a Virginia couple files a 2-page piece of paper that isn't even accompanied by a formal complaint or cause of action that just says Trump is doing this and it's bad and the White House matters to people and the like. So it doesn't really even state a cause of action, is going nowhere, and, will be either probably not even dismissed, probably returned by the clerk to the couple, the Virginia couple that filed it, and with some indications of, you have to do X, Y, Z, this kind of form and the like. It's almost, I don't know if anyone's ever been in small claims court, but, it's a very unsophisticated litigant just, wanting to sort of state their piece. And of course, it got out to the press. So maybe that it was coordinated there to have a kind of a PR hit, but it's a zero legal hit. So is there a legal hit to be had? And that's a two-part question, really. Is there a law or cause of action that says what he's doing is illegal? And then if there is there anybody withstanding to bring the suit? Okay, let's start with the first. This is a so out there, outlandish, crazy Trump move that you kind of grope for what even would be the legal theory. There's not a law that Congress has passed saying the president can't destroy the White House. Now, there are laws that Congress have passed that require certain procedures and forbid going ahead in the absence of them and the like. The main one, however, specifically exempts the White House from its sort purview. And of course, even if it didn't, you have this ubiquitous argument by Trump saying, I can ignore it. L'état c'est moi. I'm the executive branch. I don't care what that says. I'm going to do it anyway. Is there maybe a constitutional argument? Now, it's the case, first of all, it's kind of routine and nobody thinks twice about it, that when a new president comes in, they may do a little like tinkering, or there's often, rearrangement of what goes where, the curtains, etc. Nothing like this. There has been, so early on in the White House history, early presidents added stuff, not this significant, but definitely added stuff to put it into the shape of the White House that we know today. Is this different? Sure feels different. And in particular, I'm not aware of instances, I'm not a White House historical expert, but where they've literally demolished a big chunk of things. That would be, I think, the kind of core claim. Now, has it ever been the case that to build out this colonnade, they demolish this part of this corner of the room? Probably. And, I think in constructing a legal theory, you're looking at kind of, outlandish possibilities that Trump's actions seem to encompass. Let's say Trump wanted to just completely demolish the White House, down to the studs, and build Mar-a-Lago, D.C. there. Would it be against the law? I think we would need some kind of constitutional theory because the general limitations are within the executive branch, where if you want to, if certain things are of a historical interest or whatever, you go through paces. But this, the president is just so, for starters, so, arrogant and repugnant, but that, of course, goes with the territory. But I think you would have to construct some kind of argument that this is ultra vires, because his job is to take care that the laws be executed, and there's just simply nowhere in Article 2 that gives him famously all the powers of the executive branch that includes something like this. You could think of certain actions that what would be wrong with them. Well, just that they're not in the Constitution, and why is this crazy guy doing it? And it would be a so-called ultra vires theory, and you could use that to try to get a declaratory injunction saying, "Don't do this, President Trump." And then it would go up to the, all the way up to the Supreme Court. And, and just another example, and today is Friday, as it were, of something Trump's doing that is outrageous, incredibly unpresidential, and the like. But is there a legal basis, if you credit the expansive power of the executive branch, for countering it? I think it would be a matter of some creative drafting and formulation, but I think that's not the bigger problem with the lawsuit. I think some kind of ultra vires theory could work if you had the right plaintiff. And here's where we come into the real problem, it seems to me, in the suit or the 2-page document from the Virginia couple illustrates it, because they don't have standing, because you don't have standing for a so-called generalized grievance, and they are not in any different position than you who are listening to this now, or me. We love the White House. We don't want to see the president demolish the East Wing, which, by the way, I just posted this, but I looked into the history. There's some real history there, including important kind of racial equality stuff. But Betty Ford, Gerald Ford's first lady, said, if the West Wing is the brains of the White House, the East Wing, which is what we're talking about here, is the heart. So, we're really talking about Trump just, bull in a china shop, or, bulldozer on historical grounds. And it's really depriving the American people of some kind of historical value. Nevertheless, if everyone is in the same position, there's that Virginia couple, there's me, there's you, there's everyone, that's not a valid claim of standing. You need to have a special reason why you are injured. And there are, you could try to say they're taking the dirt and dumping it somewhere in a Potomac Park, and the residents who use that park are getting some specific injury to their rights of enjoyment and the like. But pretty tenuous, and at worst, if that happened, they dump the dirt somewhere else. So I'm going to continue to scratch my head about this, but I think it's hard to frame and find the right plaintiffs, mainly because Trump is essentially, as he's wont to do, certainly happy to do, just damaging the whole country. White House, the people's house, and he's just completely appropriating it for his own vanity project. What should be happening here is Congress should be screaming bloody murder, and editorial pages all over the country should be taking him to task, and it should be a big political problem that everyone is aware of and disgusted by. Where does he get off doing it, etc. Of course, we have a supine Congress and a somewhat, hedged and nervous legacy media. So that kind of two-pronged or even more attack is just one of the things he's managed to blunt, if not completely negate. But it seems to me it's an outrage, very possibly an unconstitutional outrage, but the kind of thing that it really falls to fairly docile actors in the age of Trump to actually try to push back on and erect a real political cost. Meaning, is it possible he gets away with it? It's possible he gets away with it, and the White House is transformed forevermore. So lucky for all of us who got to see it before it got all Trumpified. But it may, in fact, he may be able to make this happen. It's a shame. It's unlawful, but it may not be remediable under law. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.